She was the Communist Party's presidential candidate in 1968. Throughout the 60s and the 70s, she was a longtime member and chair of the Communist Party's Black Liberation Commission. In the early 1970s, she was the executive director of the National United Committee for the Freedom of Angela Davis, something that was developed to give national organization and expression to the demand for Angela Davis's freedom after she was arrested and incarcerated on trumped-up charges in California. And after that, the Committee for the Freedom of Angela Davis kind of developed into the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. And in its initial years, Charlene was the executive director of that organization also. Although primarily known as an organizer, Charlene has also written a large number of articles on the issues of peace, racism, black liberation, and political repression.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Tim, and thank you all of the organizers for this just magnificent event. And I think it's so needed. And I hope, too, that we will get a written form out of this. Let me just start by saying that it's because of people like Esther and Jim Jackson that many of us are here today, not just here to listen, but here based on some experiences that have made it possible for us to be here. And it's so important because if we don't have that continuum, then we're not just not leaving a legacy for younger people, we're not leaving a real future for the world. And as far as I'm concerned, the reason for one to be a real live red, a real revolutionary, is because you believe in the future. And if there is no future, then there is really no need for now. Sure. In discussing the relationship between the Black Panther Party and the Communist Party, it is important to note that the Black Panther Party had a relatively short life on the national scene. The Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California in 1966, but didn't actually become a national organization until 1968 and 1969. The result of a confluence of events, including the murder trial of Huey Newton, the armed Panther protest at the California State Assembly, and the publication of Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. By early 1972, the Black Panther Party shut down most of its branches and moved active members to Northern California, where they attempted to build a political base. So after 1972, the Black Panthers were essentially a local organization with little presence outside of California, with the exception of Eldridge Cleaver, who had decided to live in Algeria. And I'll come back to that. These years, between 1968 and 1972, were also years of tremendous political unrest within the United States. It was the beginning of the post-civil rights movement, when African Americans were searching for directions and political vehicles to take them beyond formal legal equality. This search led to the formation of many political organizations within the African American community. Socialism, Pan-Africanism, cultural nationalism, and to a degree, revolutionary nationalism. And I want to put that in quotes, because as of today, I'm not sure any such thing exists. At the same time, the anti-Vietnam War movement moved to the center stage of political debate within the country and sparked a broad level of activism, especially among young people. The political upheaval of all those years forms the backdrop for the Communist Party's relationship with the Black Panther Party. Throughout this relationship, the Communist Party consistently advocated for the right of the Black Panthers to exist as a legitimate expression within the African American community and within the broader political debate taking place in the United States. A scan of the Communist Party's two newspapers, the Daily World, published in New York, and the People's World, published in San Francisco, reflect consistent supportive coverage of the activities of the Black Panther Party. Beginning with their demonstration at the California State Assembly, through Huey Newton's trials and the trials of other Panther members. At the same time, the Communist Party clearly expressed its criticism of many aspects of the Black Panther Party's politics, its ideology and tactics. The general thrust of that critique is contained in the book Strategy for a Black Agenda, written by the Communist Party's chair, Henry Winston. The center of Winston's critique included four main points. One, the Panthers designated the lumpen proletariat, or the society's declassed elements, as being the leading revolutionary force in capitalist society. The Communist Party consistently held that the working class was the leading revolutionary force in capitalist society, while holding that the African American people, who are overwhelmingly working class, constitute a critical part of the U.S. working class, and that the struggle against racism was central to any advance in society. Two, the influence of Maoist theories on the Black Panthers' politics led them to denigrate the role of the Soviet Union and the socialist countries in the struggle for national liberation and the fight against imperialism, and further led them to equate the international role of the Soviet Union in U.S. imperialism. Three, the Black Panthers' Maoist influence, especially the ultra-leftism that is common among Maoists, led to a distorted notion of the concept of the United Front. The United Front, first initiated by the Bulgarian communist Georgy Dimitrov in the 1930s, that struggle against Nazi Germany, holds that the immediate task of Marxist-Leninists is to work to unite broad sections of the population around concrete programmatic demands that advance democratic rights. It holds that agreement on long-term goals and philosophy are not the basis for broad unity. Thus, communists can disagree with non-communists about the necessity to destroy capitalism, but that disagreement should not hinder the ability of both forces to work for decent housing, full employment, peace, and other general democratic demands. In the words of Henry Winston, quote, instead of linking theory with practice, the Black Panther Party turned the concept of the United Front into a sectarian caricature of Marxist-Leninist principles, end quote. The Communist Party's initial relationship with the Black Panther Party developed in Oakland, California, and in Los Angeles, before the Panthers had achieved national notoriety. A community organization called Youth for Jobs, an offshoot of the Du Bois Clubs, was formed in the Bay Area and worked with the Panthers from the beginning. Around the same time the Panthers was being formed in Oakland, the Communist Party formed the Che Lumumba Club in Los Angeles. This was an all-African American collective within the South Side section of the Communist Party in Los Angeles. It was formed to provide a political and ideological base within the Communist Party for young African Americans who were becoming politically active in the new militant movement of the mid-1960s. Some of the early members of the Che Lumumba Club, who went on to play prominent roles in the party and the left, included myself, Franklin and Kendra Alexander, and Angela Davis. It was not an easy thing for the club to come into existence because it was based on the idea that the club did not exist in a political vacuum. At the time, at that time, there was a militant movement within the African American community that was strongly influenced by black nationalism. It was mainly young, and they were often not accepting of people who came from multiracial organizations. People who came from multiracial or interracial organizations were often looked upon with suspicion. Consequently, only organizations comprised solely of black people were completely accepted. The Che Lumumba Club members made it clear that they were going to remain members of the Communist Party. But within the Communist Party, they were going to set up a black collective. They were open members of the Communist Party and were tied to the party in every way. They had a representative on the Communist Party Section Committee and people on the District Committee and on the National Committee of the Communist Party. Several years after that, Franklin Alexander, as a founding member of the Che Lumumba Club, remarked that, quote, "It was the view of the party when we created the Che Lumumba Club that in that moment of history, there was need for an all-black collective in the party to concentrate its activities in the black community, including work with its organized militants. It was a period when nationalist sentiment among our people couldn't be ignored and required a black response to our problems." In Southern California, during the post-Watts rebellion, a significant number of African American protest organizations were active in the community. They included Che Lumumba, the Panthers, Los Angeles SNCC, that is Student Nonviolence Coordinating Committee, let's be clear, the Black Panther Political Party, which was a separate organization from the Bay Area Panthers, the US organization, which is Ron Karanga's organization, the founder of, it sits with me so badly that I forget to say it. The Black Congress and others. You know, I don't know why take another holiday to build up black capitalism and have Hallmark make mahogany cards. It just blows my mind. Given the brutal nature of the Los Angeles Police Department, it was only natural that defending the African American community against police brutality was a major focus of many of these organizations. The Che Lumumba Club became very active in the fight against police brutality and were among the initiators of an organization called TALO, which was a temporary alliance of local organizations. TALO began following the police on night patrols, and man, did they hate that. And it always, you know, they would turn around and look at us, you know, the cops, and say, "Why are you on our heels?" And we said, "We just want to keep track of what you're doing." And they said, "If you keep it up, we're going to arrest you." Okay, that's what you do. That's what we want to see. But this group of people, and this patrol always included someone who had prestige within the African American community. They were judges, doctors, or ministers, and many of them now are well-known judges in Southern California. In Southern California, several members of the Communist Party joined and assisted in the organization of the Los Angeles branch of the Black Panther Party. They helped them secure offices, organized political education classes, and organized the community in response to actions of police brutality. However, 1968 witnessed a purge within the Black Panther Party, which had succumbed to mere paranoia over police and government infiltration. In their efforts to cleanse their ranks, they mandated that no Black Panther Party member could belong to any other political organization. Consequently, the two Communist Party members who had joined the Panthers eventually resigned from the organization. In December 1969, shortly after the police assassination of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in Chicago, the Los Angeles police raided the Black Panthers' headquarters in South Central Los Angeles. The Panthers held off the police during a gun battle that lasted for more than 4 hours. During that battle, the Panthers requested members of the African American community to come and witness their surrender, hoping to forestall a police murder of their members. The Che Lumumba Club, with other community activists, took the initiative in organizing the community to witness the arrest of the Panthers. Afterwards, members of the Communist Party, with the leadership of the Communist Party, one of their activists, Rose Chernin, played a significant role in raising the bail money and funds for the legal representation of the jailed Panther members. The connections between the Communist Party and the Black Panther Party in Los Angeles and the Bay Area were atypical of the national relationships between the two organizations. Part of this had to do with the particularity of California. Also, by 1969, the Black Panther Party was, with the exception of their survival programs, devoted most of its time to defending its members from attacks and against government forces. However, depending on local cadre in each organization, there were close contacts in other cities as the Panthers spread across the United States. For example, in Chicago, Communist Party leaders such as Claude Lightfoot and Ishmael Floyd helped organize protests and rallies in response to the Fred Hampton, Mark Clark murders. Communist Party lawyers who had been the legal defense for the Smith Act defendants were among the attorneys in the New York Panther 21 cases. And one such noted person was Mary Kaufman, who had been the lawyer in the Nuremberg trials, who had been the lawyer for many of the Smith Act cases, was one of the main lawyers in the New York Panther 21 cases. The Communist Party's position had always been that the Panthers were a legitimate force within the African American community and within the progressive movement as a whole, and consistently acted on that belief. In the late 1960s, there was an anti-war meeting in Montreal between peace activists in the United States and Canada, at which representatives of the Vietnamese peace movement were present. In the broader North American movement, and I say North American movement including Canada and the United States, there was a debate about the role of anti-imperialist forces. There were those who wanted to display the NLF flag, and some who felt that we had to, others who felt that we had to reflect loyalty to the United States. While the Maoists took the position that to negotiate was to sell out. So we had a lot of positions going here at this conference. Some of the left, including some of the Communist Party, was that all Vietnam could do at this point was negotiate, because the alternative would be to up the ante in terms of escalating war. You know, one of the things about living as long as I have lived now, and the fact that I've been active in the movement for 60 years, I was in attendance at a lot of these things, so they are first-hand experiences. The conference organizer from Montreal didn't want to have speakers from the U.S. or Canada who might have been accused of being terrorists. So it was a question of whether Bobby Seale, then the president of the Black Panther Party, accused or not, should speak because it was feared that he might offend the broader peace forces in Canada. It became a question of what position the U.S. communists would take. We defended the right of Bobby to speak. One of our delegates proposed that we take it to the Vietnamese and ask them to help us decide the question. So the Vietnamese delegation wanted Bobby to speak. Bobby gave an excellent speech. He discussed the relationship between racism in the United States and the war being waged against the Vietnamese. Bobby, whose working class background helped him to be one of the more logical thinkers in the Panthers, so it was good that it was Bobby Seale who spoke. Of course, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police interrupted the conference to challenge the legality of some of the Americans to visit Canada. So on that cold night, we were told to either leave Canada or be arrested and then deported. Of course, we left. We got out of town. As the Black Panther Party continued to come under attack, the Communist Party helped to organize in their defense. In January 1970, the Communist Party initiated the organization of the Emergency Conference to defend the right of the Black Panther Party to exist. This initiative had its origins in a meeting in Chicago in February 1970, attended by Angie Dickerson, not the actress, Dick Gregory, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Father James Groppe, Ossie Davis, Bobby Rush, now Congressman from Chicago, from the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, William L. Patterson, and myself of the Communist Party's Black Liberation Commission. The activist, comedian Dick Gregory, and representatives of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party were all present. The intent of this initiative was to build a broad coalition of individuals and organizations that could unite in defense of the democratic rights of the Black Panther Party. The building of the Emergency Committee was a reflection of the Communist Party's United Front program, based on organize a large political force around narrow political demands that all could agree with. As a representative of the Communist Party, I was the main organizer of the conference, and we utilized space in the offices of the American Federation of Journeymen, Crafts, and Allied Industrial Unions in Chicago. The emergency conference was held in March 1970 with more than 500 people, including representatives from the Communist Party, the Black Panther Party, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Committee to Defend the Bill of Rights, the Latin American Defense Organization, the United Auto Workers District 65 in New York, the Urban League, the American Friends Service Committee, the New York Hospital Workers Union, and many other labor union locals and religious organizations. Some of the recommendations that arose from the conference was planning of mass demonstrations, a National Speakers Bureau, and a national fundraising mechanism to raise bail funds and pay for legal assistance. Ultimately, the work of the Emergency Committee was hampered by the non-cooperation of the Black Panther Party. In direct opposition to the United Front concept, the Panthers demanded that they control the finances of the Emergency Committee and that the committee endorse the Panthers' political program. This was simply unacceptable in a United Front organization. In Ohio, the Panthers attempted to block an emergency committee meeting, attempt to hold the local rally on the basis that the local Panther chapter had not okayed the meeting. The Panther leadership even withdrew from the first initiative of the Emergency Committee, which was to launch a national petition campaign. The petition protested the savage police activities based on official policies of federal, state, and city government that has resulted in innumerable beatings, frame-ups, and arrests and murders of Black Americans, the classic example of which is the Black Panther Party. The petition had started with the signatures of Ruby Dee, Dick Gregory, William Patterson, Shirley Chisholm, and Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. The Panthers withdrew largely based on the fact that they were not in control of the finances. In an August 1970 personal letter to David Hilliard, the Panther National Chief of Staff, I wrote explaining, quote, "The Continuations Committee has sought in every way to cooperate with and seek the cooperation of the Black Panther Party, and has continually tried to help in mobilizing people for events programmed by the Black Panther Party." I further attempted to assure him that any rumor that the Continuations Committee or any people connected with it are using or attempting to use the repression against the Panthers for some devious opportunistic reason was erroneous. It became clear that without the Panthers' cooperation, there was no way the Emergency Committee could continue its work. Later that year, Angela Davis, a member of the Communist Party, had been accused of involvement in an attack on a courthouse in California, and the Communist Party immediately went into gear toward building a broad-based United Front campaign to win her acquittal. Although the Black Panther Party supported the demands for Angela's freedom, their demand was often couched in the same narrow sectarian tenor that marked their participation in the February Emergency Committee meeting. Thus, in a speech in Chicago in February of 1971, Huey Newton called for Angela's freedom, but cautioned people not to financially contribute to her defense in any way that could end up in the hands of the Communist Party. In a more brazen sectarian fashion, Eldridge Cleaver, writing in the Black Panther newspaper, claimed that Angela Davis's defense committee was formed by the Communist Party in collusion with U.S. fascists to divert attention, resources, and support from the trial of Bobby Seale, who was then being tried in New Haven, Connecticut, for conspiracy to commit murder. I responded to Cleaver with an open letter, criticizing his anti-communism and noting that, quote, to play that particular game of the enemy does a distinct service not only to Angela but also to Bobby and Erica Huggins and all political prisoners. This is not to say that there can be no differences between the CPUSA and the BPP. I outlined some of those differences, adding that California Communist leader Franklin Alexander had recently called for the mobilization of 500,000 people to protest the opening of Seale's trial in New Haven, and the Panthers had neglected that motion by insisting on absolute adherence to the program of the Black Panther Party. I added that we both know that this insistence bears no resemblance to the concept of a united front, which necessarily starts from maximum security, a maximum unity around minimum issues. I concluded the letter by noting that, quote, the line of the Communist Party is and will continue to be that while we are determined to free Angela, free Bobby, free Erica, and the New York Panther 21, the Soledad brothers, and all political prisoners must also be free. You will find this theme in virtually all statements issued by our party, by our comrades working in the Angela Davis Defense Committee, and of course by Angela herself. The Black Panther Party made significant contributions to the struggle for African American equality in the late 1960s and early 1970s, including their work that helped popularize the idea of socialism in the African American community. They brought needed, though often incorrectly, attention to that sector of the African American community whom capitalism had cast aside. However, their efforts were often hamstrung by their ideological weaknesses, especially their narrow sectarianism, which precluded them from politically operating within a broad democratic front. The Black Panther Party was an important part of the history of the struggles of African Americans for freedom, equality, and human dignity. Theirs is a history that the youth who want to work for radical change would do well to critically study. Thank you.